All right. How's everybody doing today? As always, I'm Brad. That's Mike. We're Dallas Geek, and we are your source for all of the latest nerd news and geek culture.
Are we?
You know, when we're consistent with our uploads.
When life doesn't
get
in the way. Being an adult, having responsibilities.
We can still blame 2020 for this, right?
I'm down.
Cool.
I could blame something else for it too, but
I mean,
you always say no politics.
I was gonna say you're not menopausal yet.
No, definitely not.
Ugh. But
word being yet.
With that, guys, yes, we are back after a couple weeks off.
Chugging a giant ass bottle of water, talking about not being menopausal.
We are back after a couple-ish weeks off.
Yes.
And we are here to talk about honestly, what we think was a pretty solid showing at Star Wars Celebration this year.
Yeah, I know people are gonna bitch and complain, but you know,
always
that's Star Wars fans, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The only ones that bitch and complain more, maybe, is Star Trek fans, but that's honestly debatable at this point.
That's very
because these days, I almost feel like the Star Wars fandom's become just a little bit more toxic than Star Trek. But I could be wrong. I mean, I'm a part of both, and I think they equally suck. But I mean, you tell us what you think. Which one have you had more fun with in the comment section on YouTube?
Is Star Trek fun? I always felt like Star Wars was fun, and Star Trek was just kind of, this is where humanity...
Idealistic, hopeful.
Yeah.
And then ultimately depressing when you look back at what reality is.
Or just the fact that people are still corrupt and self-centered even in the future.
I mean, I think the biggest reason why we all have reason to be depressed is if you have seen even one episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds and you realize that you and most everybody else is never going to be as handsome as Anson Mount's Captain Pike.
It's true.
That is just maybe the most depressing thing there. I mean,
really
it's
true.
A reason to keep going back and watching, but it's also depressing.
Yeah. Like, I can't find a single flaw.
Seriously, that man is so gorgeous.
Right.
Definitely gives the original womanizer of Star Trek, William Shatner, a run for his money in his heyday.
Yeah. And
he can act.
It's true.
Which is funny considering the fact that, Shatner is actually Shakespearean trained. Right. Which is so weird to think about when you actually see his performances, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, Star Trek.
Yes.
Wars.
Yes.
Star Wars.
Yes.
Wars. Yeah. So yes, there was a lot that we got from Star Wars Celebration.
There was.
And you will be forgiven if you saw the name Star Wars Celebration Europe and didn't realize that is the same thing as just regular Star Wars Celebration, but it happened to be taking place in Europe. Therefore,
branding.
Yes, just like next year is going to be Star Wars Celebration Japan. Which I'm actually very interested to see what that's going to be like because, I mean, honestly, the last several major entertainment conventions that have happened in Japan set pretty high expectations. So I'm fascinated to see what Disney does with Star Wars out there.
I mean, if we were ever going to get one of those Gundams to come to life and do something crazy, though, Star Wars being there would be the reason.
Can't you just imagine, though? Star Wars Celebration Japan would be the one when instead of showing us the real lightsaber like they did before, that next year is gonna be when they actually show the retail ready droids that people can buy.
Right.
Like, seriously, Disney, if you do that, just take all my money.
Or Dave Filoni's,
all of them.
Dave Filoni's gonna come in on a Gundam. Come flying in.
I feel like metaphorically he already is.
Yeah.
Which, diving into that, and not trying to analyze what Freud would say about it, So yeah, Star Wars Celebration. I mean, honestly, I think in the time that we've had since Celebration ended, I think you and I both have seen kind of mixed reception to the announcements.
Some more negative than others. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I still think that it was a pretty solid takeaway.
Absolutely. I think
in many ways.
I think when you're looking at stuff, you know, the big thing for me was just the overall diversity of what properties are coming.
Not just what properties, but what mediums those properties are going to be occurring in.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Very, very much.
Yeah. Just, you know, what we got announced, the platforms that they're going to be on, how the story is going to be told, what the stories are. I mean, the Young Jedi Adventures to, you know, Visions 2.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting into the Young Jedi Adventures here in a bit.
But like, I mean, they what they announced is a pretty diverse, you know, like you said, it's a diverse medium of storytelling. And I mean, just when you look at Visions, the fact that it's same thing as Visions 1, where it's a different animation studio handling each story. You know, I think that's really cool because it gives you a different sense of what story can be told and what. Oh, don't worry, David. We're gonna get to something that you're not gonna be happy with. But we have a positive take on.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
God damn it, that just lost me my train of thought.
That was my point.
Yeah, thanks. But no, like I think like something like Visions, I want to see more stuff like that.
Yeah, well, so
I want to see them taking more risks and doing more things that are outside the box.
Well, so and I think honestly,
you know, that's one of the things that I liked about what Marvel did with the MCU with the Disney Plus shows, and then how they're doing animated stuff as well. Like, we're getting different things, like What If, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like WandaVision, and they all kind of have their own tone, but they're all in the same universe. Like, I want to see that with Star Wars because a galaxy's a big damn place.
Well, so and like that's the thing that I feel like with Visions, Star Wars is taking advantage of a concept that honestly more studios should have been taking advantage of ages ago. Because I mean, we were set up this whole premise back with Animatrix. And when the Animatrix came out and we got to see,
and it sucked.
But it was the Animatrix, and the Animatrix was freaking gorgeous.
It was, but it was still shitty storytelling.
I beg to differ on several of them. There were a few.
Okay, I'll give you.
There were a few Animatrix that you could go. That feels a little heavy-handed or a little disconjointed. But the rest
you mean like the second and third movies?
But I'd say at least half of what we got from the Animatrix as far as storytelling, spot on. Especially if you really wanted to examine the concept of the Matrix without necessarily having to examine the Matrix. Like honestly, but the whole concept though was fascinating at the time, and like everybody was talking about it, going, oh my gosh, this is what every franchise needs to do, because this gives so many different opportunities to give different spins on, well, what if this, what if that, without needing to worry about canon. And you can try different things and see what people respond to. And then, you know, Warner Brothers gave us that, and then they gave us the Batman version, which was, I can never remember the name of that one, but it was the one that came out, what was it, right before the Dark Knight Rises?
I know which one you're talking about,
Yeah, and that came out, and everybody suddenly stood up and said, oh my gosh, the Animatrix has made its point, and now Warner Brothers is really committing. And then Warner Brothers didn't do it again. And then we had to, we've gotten a couple small attempts here and there, but nothing really committing to it to this extent until Visions. Which, I mean, Star Wars gave us, here we go. Star Wars gave us this whole concept back before Revenge of the Sith, when they gave us the comic Star Wars Visionaries. Which we are, which, you know, I loved Star Wars Visionaries.
Yeah, but this isn't canon.
Well, that's the point. like it was amazing because you got to see all these different comic book artists and writers giving different stories, some with actual text and dialogue, some that were strictly visual, but you got to see all these different takes on Star Wars that you really couldn't have imagined before. And it is the comic version of what Visions is doing, but it predates that by what, a decade now? A decade and a half?
Decade and a half, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the reasons why stuff like this is so important is, and I think the hardcore fans will definitely know this, and the casual fans might not, but you know that whole Darth Maul resurrected with robot feet thing? Mm-hmm. That came from here. Literally the very freaking first story in here, Old Wounds. It starts off on Tatooine with a kid Luke and Uncle Owen looking out over the Tatooine sunset, seeing some cloaked figure running from a distance, all to come out and get freaking Darth Maul with
spoilers.
Some really gnarly looking mechanical legs and maybe the most badass version of his reconstructed lightsaber we got. And you got to see the original version of the final fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan in this. All of it non-canon, but it was enough to give us the reason why everybody was so hungry for this when it happened in Clone Wars, and why ever since then Darth Maul has continued to be such a fascination, beyond just the fact that, well, he really caught people's attention with how cool he looked.
Yeah.
And that's
and then he went out like a bitch, just like Boba Fett.
Well, and that's
just saying, that's just a shot at all the Boba fanboys.
I mean, technically, if you're based on the way he died, more like he went out like a bitch, like Anakin. But
I don't know, man. Anakin slaughtered a whole lot of people on the way out.
Yeah, but they both got beat by a jump.
It's true.
Essentially, they got beat by the move that wins you the game in Mario. Just saying.
Simple is really better, I guess.
Yeah. So, but like, that's the thing with Visions. It sets up so much possibility for ideas that can inspire the fan base in ways that canon stories really can't, because you can play around with the concept of Star Wars without being constrained by Star Wars. And maybe we get something amazing out of it that ends up affecting canon, maybe we don't.
Yeah, maybe if only George Lucas could have followed that same... Yeah.
But I mean, you know, the experimentation is what matters, because we... Outside of fan films,
I think so.
We especially modern Star Wars. We got a little bit in classic Star Wars thanks to Dark Horse Comics doing a lot of non-canon one-offs, but modern Star Wars hasn't really played around with that.
No,
they haven't experimented, and this is a great way to do that without needing it to be official.
And I think that's really a big testament too to, you know, the... What do we want to call it? The Legends universe, the expanded universe, the...
Yes, you are correct, David. Boba did not die now. And I realize, yes, technically in the old books he didn't die then, but it took a while before the first book came out to show that he didn't. So, I mean...
I want to say, after Revenge of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi, I should...
Schrodinger's Boba.
That's true,
I'm just saying.
Yes, if I open the Sarlacc pit...
will Boba come crawling out?
All right. But like, I think this is also a testament to the fact that it's the argument that I make sometimes that for 20 to 25 years, the best stuff coming out of Star Wars had nothing to do with George Lucas. It was other creators that were taking these stories and putting their own spin on it and doing their own form of storytelling.
Yeah, without question.
Like, I think that's why we need stuff like Visions and why we need people like Dave Filoni to champion new storytellers that grew up loving this stuff, that want to tell a story that's in a different part of the galaxy. I think it's what Rian Johnson tried to do with The Last Jedi to an extent, but I don't think that works in the Skywalker saga.
No, and I mean, obviously we've seen that the type of storytelling he was attempting does work within Star Wars thanks to what we've gotten with Andor.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's out of place. It was simply out of place within the main trilogy.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's hard to say that the Skywalkers aren't important in the middle of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah. So
or I guess the end of the Skywalker saga.
So like, yeah, it's the importance of experimentation is very, very significant in the fact that we're getting that with Visions for another round.
The Acolyte.
Even better.
Yeah.
The Acolyte's going to be a bit of an experimentation too, but more in terms of the era that the storytelling is going to occur.
Right.
Which, okay, cool.
That's
and then, of course,
thing.
Also, speaking of, some slight experimentation with storytelling, Tales of the Jedi was greenlit for season 2, which, if you saw season 1, you may not think that was such a huge leap in experimentation because they were basically just doing stories to fill in the gaps for the stories from the prequels.
Right.
So, I mean, you're not really breaking new ground. But if you really look at what they did as far as expanding the motivations of Count Dooku, expanding the characterization of Ahsoka, and how they framed that, it matters.
Yeah, and I think that's also...
Whoa, we just had a... Okay, let me see what happened to the video.
Are we still coming in audio-wise? Can you hear us, Brad? Nope, we're back.
Yeah.
Maybe. Weird. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, technical difficulties. We didn't have any going into the show, so we have to have one at least mid-show.
I was going to say it would make sense that it happens in the middle. But I also think to that point too, we also get to see different takes on characters that have already existed.
Exactly.
And we get to see, what a new vision for said character can bring out. And maybe it's a different take that's better, maybe it's worse, but it's still something different. I think one of the things that we always talk about is, I think the thing that is so damning for Hayden Christensen is that he didn't get to do anything with Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
To the point that they did with Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, which is really sad because, I mean, if there was anybody that deserved the benefit of that much character development, it should be the guy that started the role, not the one that took up the voice for the animated. Now, granted, obviously, the animated version, and I'm blanking. I am so sorry. I'm blanking on the actor's name.
It's Matt.
There, yes, yeah. Matt. Yes, but he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got all of it and Hayden got none of it.
Got to do monologues about sand.
I mean, it's a bit unfortunate.
I guess when you have somebody like Filoni writing versus Lucas writing.
Now, I will say though, I think if you really want to talk about the benefits that we got from Tales of the Jedi Season 1 that gives you reason to hope for Season 2, it is that throughout Clone Wars, and definitely in Attack of the Clones, we were given this idea that Count Dooku was supposed to be a sympathetic villain. We're given that idea from the moment he's introduced, interrogating Obi-Wan, with him saying that if Qui-Gon was still around, he would have joined him. And we never really got to see why that was in the movies. We got to see a little bit of the idea in the Clone Wars, but because he was intentionally framed to be the villain, there were only a couple times where he could be considered sympathetic, and it wasn't really enough to do that whole concept justice. But then in Tales of the Jedi, over the course of just 2 episodes, just the first 2 that he was in, we got all of the explanation for that sympathy right there. in 30-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And it made everything about him make so much more sense, aside from the fact that, yeah, of course, he's championing a group of people who were very clearly being kind of crapped all over by the Republic. Well, this is what they did with Tales, was a lot less conceptual and a lot more concrete about, he saw the problems with the Jedi Order. He personally saw the problems with the galaxy and the fact that the Jedi Order was more entrenched in their own dogma than actually helping people. And every time he tried, as much empathy as he wanted to have for the people, he kept getting shut down because, you're being too emotional. You're being too involved. And you start to understand why he would have been frustrated enough to leave. So I think if we can get with season 2 anything even remotely close to that level of character development for anybody else, there is a lot of opportunity to really experiment with characterization and redefining storytelling in a way that would be significantly more positive.
I'd agree 100%.
I really hope they don't just stick to the Clone Wars era, because if season 1, season 2 are Clone Wars era, then they're pigeonholing themselves to a point where I feel like that might be a little too much of a turnoff. But hey.
What else do you want to talk about, Brad? Do you want to talk about video games? Do you want to talk about more?
Well, we do have some movie announcements that were pretty significant.
Yeah, I would say so, considering the fact that one of them is an era that is almost never touched, except for, I think, KOTOR and KOTOR 2?
Oh, before that.
In terms of...
So there were 3 movie announcements, and of those 3, each one is taking place in a different era, which the eras of Star Wars were officially redefined. Before, we were given a handful of eras, but those were defined by the movies. Now that we have TV shows and we have more books and more context, we've been given more eras to work with and a bit more refining to where those separation points are. And so what we got is the first movie announcement, which is the one that kind of took the roof off the building on this one, was the announcement of Dave Filoni's movie, which is going to be taking place during the post Return of the Jedi, New Republic era. And is going to essentially be a culmination of all of the storytelling he's been building through Rebels and The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba, and even apparently a bit in the upcoming Skeleton Crew.
But no Cassian Andor, because we know how that story ends.
And we've already been, we were teased with the fact that this is going to be inspired by and or essentially telling the new version of Heir to the Empire, which was the original Timothy Zahn novel that introduced Grand Admiral Thrawn. And what's really cool is
I don't know why I'm saying correct, I know more than you do about this crap.
And what's really cool is Timothy Zahn has been noted to be directly involved in the writing for, I believe it was Ahsoka and the movie, because Dave Filoni has decided to bring him in for writing of Thrawn moving forward, because originally he was consulted for the basis of Thrawn for Rebels, and then the storylines were handed over to somebody else. Well, Timothy Zahn wrote the 2 Thrawn trilogies that are amazing.
So you say.
And so we, knowing that he's going to be involved in the live action version of the character now, gives us a lot of hope for having a true to spirit recreation of the big climax of Thrawn's story.
Right.
Which I am so ready for.
Is your body ready, Brad?
As ready as it's going to be, but there will be a lot of shaking and spurting after.
I'm sure. I'm sure this is a family show after all.
And then, of course, we had the announcement that everybody was very intrigued by, which was James Mangold is getting a Star Wars movie, and that is going to be at the dawn of the Jedi.
25,000 years before.
And the thing about that is, even back in the old canon, you know, the pre-Disney canon, we got one series in Dark Horse Comics that addressed that era roughly, and that was the Dawn of the Jedi series.
Right.
And that was relatively overlooked by a lot of people. It was decent, but it was relatively overlooked. And then we had some commentary about that time during the Knights of the Old Republic series the Old Republic game,
I think that's
but not enough to really that actually dived into it.
I was about to say, I think that's kind of, in terms of like the more well-known medium, I think KOTOR and Old Republic was the furthest back that anything really went in terms of
pop culture. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the.
So this is going to be uncharted territory for, I would say, a good chunk of the fan base.
Yeah. So knowing that is what they're going to be doing, and that it's James Mangold that is running that one.
Right.
So much hope there for what that could be, especially because we now know that because it's going to be so far back, and that's what that is, he's going to be constrained by nothing as far as what he can and cannot do with that, because it's going to be so far detached from anything that's already been written. There is really no way that he can negatively affect anything that already exists as far as the story. It's James Mangold. I don't need to knock on wood.
It's fair. I don't know. I haven't seen Indy 5 yet.
And here's the big thing. When they announced that, and they showed where that fell on the timeline, they showed the timeline and showed that you had the prequel series, or the prequel era. You had the High Republic era, which was 200 years before A New Hope. And then between the High Republic and the Dawn of the Jedi era, you had an era called the Old Republic.
Right.
But there's nothing currently listed on any within any medium for that era, which made a lot of fans very excited, because that opens the door to at least some aspect of the Knights of the Old Republic story to be brought back.
And we do.
Conversely, if not the Knights of the Old Republic explicitly, we do have the old canon Old Republic stories that happened during the old Sith wars with Exar Kun, and the whole. Well, honestly, some of the coolest comic art that Dark Horse ever put out for the Jedi.
And don't forget, we also
which is amazing.
We have the Knights of the Old Republic remake coming.
If it doesn't get canceled again, and again and again.
Well, no, it's just been delayed. It hasn't been canceled outright.
Pretty sure it got canceled from that one studio at least, because they couldn't fix the game-breaking bug.
No, it's just delayed. Indefinitely, but delayed.
But yes.
I'm just saying, man, delays aren't cancellations. But we do have that remake coming, so...
I mean, you can hold on to the Duke Nukem Forever logic all you like.
I mean, the game still came out. It wasn't good, but it came out.
Yeah. So no, it definitely gives a lot of hope.
Yes.
And then, of course, the last movie... is taking place...
we know the one that David's so excited about.
About 15... Was it 15 or 20?
I think it's 15, if 15, I remember right.
15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker.
Correct.
And who's going to be starring in it?
My future ex-wife, Daisy Ridley. Was that out loud?
I mean, I'm sure there's nobody out there watching that might take offense to that.
That's fair. My ancestors are Mormon. It's fine.
But this ain't Utah. So,
you can still practice anywhere you want to. It's not like you're confined to within the state boundaries of Utah.
Yeah, but it's more than a slap on the wrist outside of Utah.
Oh, that's fair.
Or parts of Nevada.
Actually, I think it's encouraged in parts of Nevada, but anyway.
But yes, so we have a movie that's going to be bringing Rey back as Master Rey, whose journey is going to be taking her to try to rebuild the Jedi Order.
Right.
And conflicting rumors since Celebration have made it unclear whether she's going to be the star or if she is going to be secondary casting with somebody else being the main focal point of the story. That's the part that they're not saying explicitly, but it will be interesting.
I think it would make sense for her to be the star for this one, and then if it does well and you continue to go on, then you transition her out and transition in a new generation of talent to continue on with the Star Wars storytelling and that aspect of it. But I also think that this is the first time in a while that they've, or not in a while, I mean, this is the first time really that we've seen them try to do movies that are existing in different parts of the timeline.
Finally.
Yeah. Because it's all been centralized to either the Skywalkers or, you know, stuff around that general time frame.
Yes.
Like with Solo, like with Rogue One, and then even I almost said Netflix, even the Disney Plus series as well. So it's nice to see that they're branching out. It's also nice to
finally.
Yeah, we're also going to get to see some kind of glimpse of what the future holds for the galaxy.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's 15 years later, knowing their luck, they're probably just intergalactic civil war all over again.
Oh, I desperately hope not. There's only so many times that they can rehash the galactic civil war angle before you just start to ask, do you guys honestly have no other story options up your sleeve?
It's true.
Like, come on.
I would agree.
So it's going to be interesting. And of course, there was even the rumor that came out following Celebration that a certain ex-stormtrooper it might be coming back for this as well, after some fence mending between him and the studio.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens about that, because I think we know who we're talking about. He did not have nice things to say about Disney.
In fairness, though, can you blame him? I mean, he kind of got shafted.
Oh, you mean after they bastardized its character and gave all of the development for that character to a completely new character that they wrote for just one movie? No, I can't.
Well, I mean, even in The Rise of Skywalker, any attempt to give him back development felt very gimmicky.
Yeah, because at that point, it was too little too late.
Yeah. So, no, it'll be... I'm interested to see if that actually pans out as being legit.
Yeah.
But the number of sources that have said that it's gonna be a thing, or it's essentially a foregone conclusion that he's coming back.
Right.
I'm willing to believe it, but obviously until it's official.
Well, look, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any idea for who's directing that one.
So we do, or
do we? Oh no, wait. It's Charmaine.
Yeah.
The one that did help me. Was it Miss Marvel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, and I mean, we gotta also keep in mind that originally this was supposed to be the David Benioff movie,
right?
And then he got nixed after some creative differences, and Charmaine got brought in.
Wait, the who? What'd you say?
Benioff.
Why am I blanking?
Game of Thrones. Also,
Oh, that's right.
Wasn't he also Lost? And
No, the Damon Lindelof is Lost. Yes.
Lindelof. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
David Lindelof.
Yeah, that's right.
He was let go due to creative differences,
Right.
and he's even come out in interviews since then, saying that no, that this wasn't such an amicable split as much as it was.
They asked
He
him to
was
leave,
very
yeah.
specific about what he wanted, and Disney was very specific when they said that no, we want this. And while he never said exactly what it was that they wanted, that he could not get on board with, it was implied that it was the bringing back of Rey and making her a more central focus rather than having her maybe come in as a cameo.
That would make sense. That would create creative rifts for sure.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting.
And then, of course, the Game of Thrones guys aren't doing their trilogy anymore.
But I mean, that I feel like is not really a big loss.
No. Rogue Squadron is officially dead. Or not officially dead. We don't really know
shelved.
right now.
So Kathleen Kennedy, so IGN actually did some great interviews after each of the big panels. And in the interview with Favreau and Kennedy, Filoni and Kennedy, Kathleen Kennedy said that, yes, the Rogue Squadron show is still happening. She was not going to say whether or not Patty was still
involved.
attached,
That's right. Yeah.
or give any idea of any new developments about it, whether, as far as timeline or story or anything. But she'd said that it is still officially on the books, but development has been put on hold for the moment.
Yeah.
So they still have a desire to do it. Just like she said, she also acknowledged that the Lando series is still officially in development, but that I always want to call him Childish Gambino first before his actual name.
Well, he is Childish Gambino, but he's also Donald Glover.
Donald Glover.
Yeah.
So that Donald Glover is still directly involved in the planning of that series because they want him to be involved in the development of the character of Lando.
Yeah.
So that is still going to happen, but they still have not finished working out the story to get it ready for production.
Right.
So those were the two big things that she did confirm, which was nice to hear.
Which this could all change by D23, it could all change by Comic-Con, it could all change by celebrations next year. We have no idea.
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I
do want to point out though, PG-13 we get at least one F-bomb, so I should be able to say one uncensored.
I mean, we get plenty of those in other shows.
That's fair.
Especially whenever other David is on.
Yes.
So
geriatric. There we go.
So yeah,
the hands and
the big thing I think that we all need to acknowledge is that if we are all being very, very honest with ourselves, Daisy Ridley deserved another shot as Rey because she was not given a fair shake, and the character had a lot of potential. And she's a good actor, so...
Actress, but...
I mean, actor is technically gender neutral, but...
Then why have the word actress?
If you want to be gender specific.
Yeah, so actress. Semantics.
Anyway, so no, she deserved another shot.
Absolutely.
And honestly, whether it was going to be as part of a trilogy, as a one-off movie, as whatever, regardless of what some of the more butthurt fans out there, butthurt fans
looking at somebody that I know,
I think she deserved another shot with a good director and a good script that wasn't going to be as micromanaged as what we got.
I think everybody involved in this most recent trilogy deserves some kind of...
Yes.
Especially, and I know you hate it, David, but Force Awakens was a great movie. It was a great starting off point. JJ laid the groundwork.
Decent.
You shut your whore mouth.
It was decent.
JJ laid the groundwork of what could have been, and then unfortunately things fell apart. but we shouldn't punish the actors that didn't really get a chance when the characters, I think we have to say it, some of those characters were completely derailed by that second movie.
Oh, entirely.
So I think that's only fair, right?
Yes.
So
yeah. So as far as the big TV announcements go, or streaming, obviously we already talked about Tales of Jedi and Visions. We also got the announcement that Bad Batch is going to be ending with season 4.
Season 3.
Three, sorry.
But they will get a actual conclusive last season, unlike Clone Wars got originally back in the day.
So yes, this is a planned ending.
Correct.
And honestly, I'm looking forward to it.
I haven't watched any of season 2, but I heard great things.
I'm finally almost caught up, and it's going well actually. I think it's a really solid season. So I'm excited to be able to see what they do for the big conclusion. And then of course, I think Ahsoka is a little bit hard not to get excited about.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka is wonderful.
Right.
I mean, it's Rosario Dawson, so I mean, I'm gonna see anything that she does because she's just amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that she particularly does a good job as Ahsoka. I'm very intrigued to see Mary Elizabeth Winstead play Hera.
Just the fact that it basically looks like it's another season of Rebels is really awesome.
Oh yeah, and I am blanking on the name of the actress that was cast as Sabine.
Sabine, yeah, I am too.
But she looks great, like really, really great. We only got a quick little hologram representation of the actor playing Ezra, which, I mean, I was already intrigued by the casting on that because the Aladdin movie, I mean, the guy that they cast to play Aladdin, which once again I'm blanking on his name, I am so sorry, but I want to say it starts with an M.
I gotcha.
Thank you.
Yep.
But he, I thought he was good. I thought he's good enough, and honestly, he's still so young in his career and has so few credits that giving him a shot at something like this still has a lot of opportunity for positive growth.
Mina Masad.
There it is. And I think he actually would be a really solid Ezra, both in looks and tone. So I'm very interested in that. And of course, since we recently, not going to say where, but recently got to see a live action version of Zeb, I think that...
Spoilers! Dick!
I'm not saying where.
Yeah.
It was somewhere we saw.
I mean, it's not any worse than what comicbook.com did with Cad Bane. Where the thumbnail was his picture. And it's like, what spoiler means for... I'm like, oh, thanks, guys.
I mean, I think seeing that, and then of course, seeing what the live-action Chopper looked like in the Ahsoka trailer, I think all that together really gives me hope that this is going to be a really, really fun outing.
Absolutely. So.
And that's not to mention the two maybe not Dark Jedi, without being called Dark Jedi, that have orange lightsabers that... Filoni already said, yes, those are actually orange. That's not just a trick of the light, but wouldn't say what that meant. So it'll be very interesting. I think there's a lot of really fun things coming up for the lore and for the fans.
Absolutely. Well, especially since I think is Ahsoka the last big thing on tap for this calendar year for Star Wars? Because I think Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are both next year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, seeing the little bit that we got about Skeleton Crew with that, finding out that their description, now that they have one for it, is essentially Star Wars Goonies.
Shit, I'm all for.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't care. Because Goonies never say die, Brad.
I'm fascinated.
Yes, you should be.
And then, of course, the thing that I am so happy about. Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures.
Yes.
So I don't know how many of you out there have been wondering about what is going, when or if Disney was ever going to be doing like a kid-friendly Star Wars, or if some of you were afraid that they were going to make all of Star Wars kid-friendly. But here's the thing. As somebody who grew up loving Star Wars, back when there was only so much to enjoy, as I grew up, I always wanted to be able to have the chance to be able to share Star Wars with my kids. But
kids, what the hell are those?
But looking at all of the Star Wars that came after I was a kid.
No. I'm just, you were looking forward to sharing Star Wars with your children, and what are your children's names?
Oh, Luke and Ben.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nerd.
I mean, they were gonna get involved one way or another, but
indoctrinating them. Okay.
Yes, gladly.
So it's okay when it's Star Wars, but it's not okay when it's religion. Good talk. Was that out loud?
Star Wars hasn't committed genocide.
Star Wars is all about genocide.
Not real genocide.
Well, still.
I mean, you get some really awkward scenes at conventions, but Star Wars fans have never committed actual genocide. I'm just saying.
That we know of. I mean,
Fair.
for all we know, Putin is a Star Wars fan.
He does come from the Reagan era. But the thing is, like, looking at all the Star Wars that has come around since I grew up, there was never really anything that I could say was definitively meant for kids. There was stuff that kids got into, but it was never designed for kids, not like kids. Like, George meant that for Star Wars to be a story for kids, but there was an age limit to which kids would realistically be best suited to be introduced to it.
I mean, was there though? Because the first PG-13 Star Wars was Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but that's a whole different issue.
I mean, like, even with episodes 1 and 2, I wouldn't necessarily say that there was stuff in there that would turn away, like, even kids of, like, the 5 and 6-year-old.
But that's the thing. Some, yes, but not all. There was never any Star Wars that was universally all kids of all ages are suited for this. I mean, the closest you could get to was Ewoks. And, well, that has some nightmare fuel. There was animated Ewoks, which, yeah, but that's also got some nightmare fuel.
That's right.
So, when Disney bought Star Wars, my first hope was that somewhere in there they would do a kid-friendly Star Wars so that I could actually introduce it to my kids before, they were officially age appropriate for the movies.
And then the first thing we get is Ben Swallow slaughtering Padawans.
And then we get animated stuff, but for like upper elementary. Yeah. We got Star Wars Legos, but realistically that was like mid-elementary at best.
Yeah.
But regardless, all of that still was dependent on the fact that you'd seen the movies. So that, because the Legos all had jokes that were dependent on that you've seen the movies, so you get the jokes.
Rebels. I would say Rebels was decently accessible to all children.
It was.
Yeah.
But once again, that was like mid to upper elementary, realistically. Did my son see it already? Yes.
It sounds like you just need to throw your kids in a damn DeLorean and get them older.
But here's the thing. That's not how that works. DeLorean doesn't age you, it ages everybody else around you.
That's true.
But here's the thing. With Young Jedi Adventures, we finally get not only a Star Wars that is age appropriate for my not elementary school age kids yet, that is very much in the animation style of the Spidey and His Amazing Friends, if you have seen any of the current Disney Junior offerings. Actually really fantastic Spider-Man show.
It's pretty fun. My nephew's all about it. Yeah.
But it takes place during the High Republic.
Yep.
Which means there is absolutely no worry about anything from the show spoiling any big reveals from the movies. which means my kids can watch it without having caught up on any of the movies for one reason or another, and I don't have to worry about any big reveals like, you know, Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker being brought up.
Spoilers!
A 40-year-old spoiler. Yeah.
Is it 40?
Yes. Because, you know, we had the 40th anniversary,
80s, yeah.
was it a year, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
And then we had the 40th anniversary for Jedi coming out later this month, which, by the way, was one of the other big announcements that happened, which is it's coming back to theaters for a limited run for the anniversary. Return of the Jedi, yeah. But
the weakest of the original 3. It's the ending that does it for me.
But either
Really,
way,
the Empire, like the stormtroopers with armor are defeated by Ewoks. Really, guys? That's what we're going with?
that's the kid-friendly version of the tale. Let's not forget what happened to the people inside the armor.
That's fair.
Their bodies disappeared.
Yeah. At the big bonfire celebration. Oh, I see what you're getting at.
And in fairness, we know that the Ewoks are not herbivores because they did try to cook Luke and Han and Chewie.
That is true.
So
Did they try to cook them, or did they just try to sacrifice them?
No, they were on a spigot
That's true.
or spit, whatever.
Yeah, that is true.
So I mean, you know, you gotta really ask. When all the rebels were celebrating with Ewoks, what were they really eating?
Well, it's not cannibalism if it's the Ewoks eating them. However, I would hope that the humanoids at the celebration were like, nah, we're good.
Unless they didn't know.
I would hope
Soylent
they knew.
Greens. But
It's people!
But no, that's the thing that I am so excited for. I can because my kids have already seen the shorts that were put up on YouTube and now Disney Plus for it. This show, you know, it premieres tomorrow, and I am so dang excited because it looks really fun.
Yeah.
And it is exactly the kind of thing that my kids can enjoy because not only is it Star Wars, but it's Star Wars where all the kids that want to pretend to be Jedi can now have inspiration to be able to play Jedi with more than just, I'm Luke, no, I'm Luke, no, I'm Luke. Now you can actually have fun with a whole slew of Jedi back during the golden era of the Order.
That's true.
So it's going to be fantastic, honestly, and I am so dang excited.
Good for you, nerd.
Then we have video games, like you said.
Yeah.
And what video game did we get?
Well, outside of the KOTOR remake that was announced like 2.5 years ago that we still don't have, we got the final gameplay reveal for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Fallen Order that came out back in 2019.
Yes.
And as of our recording, it came out last week, and hot damn, the game is so good.
If you got it on console.
Yes. Which I am not a douchebag PC player. Looking at you, douchebag.
So I just got around to finally playing and finishing Fallen Order.
Which is a great game.
Amazing. I absolutely 100%ed that sucker. It was great. But I want to play the second one. But knowing that there are still some game-breaking glitches in the PC port hurts.
Hey, you can come over and play on my PS5 while I'm playing on my Xbox.
So, look, I have the deepest of sympathies for the dev team on this one because I understand the problems porting from console to PC.
It's not just this game. Like, it crippled Arkham Knight's PC port.
Yeah.
It's crippled several other major AAA titles being ported over.
Yeah, and more developers out there are coming forward in interviews, and if you are one of the big now former developers from BioWare and CD Projekt Red roundtables, talking about the problems that the industry is facing right now, and the biggest problem of which being the shortened timelines, larger expectations for what these games look like, especially if there's any amount of RPG aspect to it.
Yep. Which Jedi is heavy in RPG.
And then the fact that the programming things that are required to get it ready for console don't directly translate to PC.
Yep.
And because of the way that the hardware in a console works versus the hardware options for PC work, they have to essentially go back and reprogram almost the entire thing in order to be able to make it ready for PC. And so if they're only given a fraction of the time to be able to get it PC ready, there are going to be bugs because they don't have enough time to make it a complete reprogram.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, because it gets into a lot of technobabble, that is actually a technical term, thanks to Star Trek.
Yep. Not Star Wars.
Yeah. Because the explanation for why that is gets into a lot of technobabble that anybody that's not a computer programmer isn't really going to appreciate or care about. The general public easily loses track of how difficult it is to port from console to PC, and just how many things can go wrong with that. And even if you were given just enough time to do the programming to port it from console to PC, if you're not given additional time for quality control and testing, that's not actually enough time to finish. So it becomes really problematic because we end up getting things like this where we get game-breaking glitches and other issues that the dev team are blamed for, instead of the people who should be blamed for it, EA.
Yes. Blaming EA for everything.
I mean, in fairness,
the game is incredible. Look, and it's a really cool story that is told from the that's what it was. Thank you, David. Nerd. No, but it's a really good, and like, as little spoilers as possible, Survivor starts on Coruscant. And it is gorgeous, and it is so dope to be running across the Coruscant rooftops, like taking stormtrooper blasts and force pushing them off of rooftops, and it's amazing. But what I will say is that the video game is a medium that Star Wars, like, over the course of Star Wars life, it dabbles in, and it does really well. But
with a couple exceptions.
Right. But like, for every Republic Commando and like every Squadrons and every Star Wars Jedi Survivor, those games are only coming out like once every 5-6 years. Like, we don't get, like, that's a sad thing, is that I would say, like, the video game medium, like, I wish we would get more Star Wars in the video game medium. Like,
back during the era of Dark Forces Jedi Knight.
Right.
And the sequels to Jedi Knight.
Right. Jedi Academy, Jedi Knight 2.
It was Dark Forces Jedi Knight, but there was a gap between that. Then Jedi Knight went to Dark Forces Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith. Then there was Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and then you had Jedi Academy.
Right.
And the thing was, during that era, not only was that series released relatively close together, but during that time you also had several other Star Wars games coming out alongside them to fill in the gaps between them. Some were good, some were meh, but in the end they were still there, so you still had Star Wars offerings. But unfortunately, that was the 90s. And it's been a while.
Late 90s, 2000s. So, but I mean, like, in the last 5 years, how many Star Wars games have we gotten?
Not enough.
Squadrons, Fallen Order, Survivor.
Do you count each of the new expansions to the Old Republic as a game?
No.
Well, then, damn.
Because it's an expansion to an IP that's existed for well over 10 years, right?
I mean, in fairness, the first couple of big expansions to it were treated like games, in the same way that the first couple expansions to World of Warcraft were treated like new game releases. And I mean, eventually the additions kind of blurred together, and it was just another addition to the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was some pomp and circumstance for a little while.
True. But that's just
I mean, hell, I still played and it's still fun. But,
yeah. Like I mean, like I am a.
Why do I have to keep being the one to push the button?
Do you trust me pressing buttons on this thing? Okay then.
You have working fingers.
I'm saying, do you trust me to do you trust me to press the right button?
It's the one with the brightest light on there. If you can't aim at the light, I mean...
I thought we were supposed to turn away from the light.
I mean...
Don't go towards the light.
You will be turned away from the light.
That's true.
But that's a
different... But no, like we need to get more we need more Star Wars video games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially when like...
And you could even do it...
Even some of the bad ones were innovative in their own way. Like the third-person adventure game for the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Like that got bagged on by critics so much, but the technical innovations that it put out shaped the next like 5 to 10 years of adventure games after it.
Or like just the fact that we have very little in the era of the High Republic right now. Like give us a couple video games that are open world RPGs set in that era, where we can play as Jedi during the height of the High Republic.
There is so much good storytelling happening for
By the way,
was one of the other announcements that we got at Celebration was the next round of books and comics for the High Republic Phase 2.
Or give me an expansion for the Old Republic, or give me an Old Republic style MMO set in the era of the High Republic, where you're just running around the galaxy investigating shit and doing.
I'd be down.
Yeah, make it crossplay between platforms.
Now they would never do that, unfortunately, because that would take away player base from the Old Republic.
True.
So neither EA nor Disney would ever undercut themselves like that. But I mean, the concept is sound. So no, I think in the end, there was a lot that came out from Celebration that was fantastic. I think there was a lot from Celebration that, while solid in and of themselves, left people wishing it had been more.
Correct.
But as a whole, I think that the overarching takeaway from Celebration this year really should be that there's a lot of good things coming, and there is a plan. And I think the biggest indication of there being a plan, or at least a plan based on lessons learned, was, once again, going back to that interview with Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy, where when she was asked about the future of Star Wars trilogies and one-offs, she said that the future of Star Wars is going to be one-offs, and if it happens to turn out that any of the stories that they tell in movie form feels like there's more to the story that can be expanded on with sequels, whether that's 1 or 2 sequels or more, they will explore that when it's appropriate, but that they will not be moving forward with the idea that there has to be a preset trilogy that they commit to, that they are going to commit to more individual stories to try to expand more on the universe as a whole, and the types of stories that they are able to tell as a whole. And honestly, I think that may be one of the best things that she could have said, because it means that in addition to having these long form stories through shows, it means that we can now expect movies to be more diversified in what they're talking about and what they focus on, and even when they focus on, rather than knowing that one movie and its topic and the time that it takes place now has us stuck for 2 more movies after that doing the exact same thing. I'm honestly excited for that, because we have not gotten enough one-off Star Wars movies to really show the strength of a standalone Star Wars, because the 2 standalones that we've gotten were very, very weak entries. And
Talking Solo and Rogue One.
yeah. And because of what we've seen with the shows, we know that it's possible.
Yep.
Like, if Obi-Wan had been the movie it was originally intended to be, rather than the show that was split into episodes,
Yeah.
I think it would have been much stronger, and you could have fixed certain pacing issues much better. And I think that's where one-off movies really can shine for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to do big, elaborate epics, that you can do simple, finite stories
Excuse me.
that happen to be in Star Wars,
Yeah.
and show that you can do them well.
I think the problem that you're going to run into is and I hope it's not the case, but I think it's the problem that you're going to run into is that they're going to have to make every movie feel like an epic. Like, they tried so hard to make Rogue One so much more than it should have been.
I think that's part of the lessons learned that hopefully they've taken away, that especially after the popularity of the shows, and knowing that the shows, while having an epic feel because of the long form, each individual episode have not had to feel epic, and even some of the most popular episodes of shows have not had the most epic feel.
Right. That's
And
true.
hopefully that will be enough to show them that they can do more subdued stories by movie and still get highly, highly positive reception.
Yeah. It's a good point.
So,
But
with that,
I think that's a good point to end it.
yes.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you stuck around. We went a little bit over, but I mean,
It's been a couple weeks, so.
yeah, in fairness, there really was a lot to cover for Star Wars.
Yes.
So if you were unaware, this Saturday we are going to be doing a live show
What?
in Frisco, Texas.
What?
Plano, Texas. My bad. Plano, Texas, at the wonderful Madness Games and Comics, which I just realized we probably should have plugged at the beginning of this show.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
whatever. We're here now. So, yes, we're going to be doing a live show starting at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Why are we doing a live show there, Red?
Because this Saturday is the wonderful, wonderful Free Comic Book Day.
Ah!
The time of year that all comic book fans look forward to. And if you go to Madness in particular, you really look forward to it, because in addition to the free issues that they have, they also have some of the best sales
Yep.
that they put out all year. So if you are looking to stock up on new comics without absolutely breaking the bank, this Saturday is the day to do it.
Thank God I'm broke. Right.
So
Yeah.
it is going to be a wonderful time. We're going to be there. Like I said, we start at 9 at doors open. And in addition to us, there are going to be several other groups there. The Assassination Roll Derby team is going to be there. You got I believe Lego Guild is going to be there. The Calligraphers Guild is going to be there.
Nerds of all ages,
doing
color, shape,
demonstrations.
sizes, everybody.
And of course, if you are into D&D or tabletop role playing, there's going to be the God Hand. That's going to be there. A model miniature company that's going to be there doing demos for miniature model building and painting, all that fun stuff. And it's looks like it's going to be really, really fun. So if you are a big tabletop RPG fan, definitely going to be worth your time to come out and see what tips and tricks you can pick up for your next game.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's going to be really fun. We hope to be able to see all of you out there. And hey, if you come out, you might even get to be featured on camera.
What?
So we will see. And hopefully we will see you this Saturday. With that, as always, I'm Brad. That's Mike. We're Dallas Geek. And see ya.